Welcome into the nice Pro Day edition of the DGD Podcast. As always, Robert Reynolds going solo today. Juan and Kobe have previous engagements, but we're going to talk about this Pro Day and what it means because all eyes are on the Georgia Bulldogs today. Excuse me. All 32 teams in the NFL are accounted for in Athens. So with that being said, let's jump straight into that. Show is brought to you by our friends over at goodness gracious, Apotheos Roastery. Apotheos Roastery, folks, excellent coffee. I promise you that. GOGG approved, might I add. With that being said, head over to our website, dgdpodcast.com/Apotheos. Use the link there to click and view their selection. Get you some excellent quality coffee. And also keep in mind that if you use our link, 20% of every bag that is purchased, 20% of that will go to the Classic City Collective. They are the official coffee and cold brew partner of the collective, just to keep that in mind. Based out of Kennesaw, Georgia. They got 30 years of crafting experience with this. Give them a shout out. Let them know we sent you. Check them out at Instagram and Twitter as well. Instagram is Apotheos Roastery. Twitter is Apotheos Coffee. Check them out. Let them know we sent you. Listen, thanks Apotheos. With that being said, I see Patrick 63 saying "Go Dogs" is Pro Day. Yes, sir. I'm going to ask the question for the brigade here, but as I continue to talk about that, what are your thoughts overall with this Pro Day so far? If you're watching it, it's probably wrapping up here soon, but on the SEC network. I know Stetson's already thrown a little bit. Before we went live, I saw that Jalen Carter and Nolan and all those guys were working out defensive-wise. As GOGG comes right in saying, "Go Dogs, Kobe must have been acting up in jail. Didn't get free time, and Juan is probably stuck with a broken hip. Damn, but not here to defend himself." GOGG, that's cold-blooded. It's cold-blooded. But overall, obviously, like I said, let me know in the comments below what y'all thought, what your thoughts are in regards to the Pro Day so far. I thought for me, obviously, I think not really. I think Kenny ran the 40. I want to say I saw maybe Chris Smith run the 40. I don't know what their times were. But when we take a look at, what Pro Day's about, we're taking a guy, take it, for example, Jalen Carter, right? Like I was saying, Jalen Carter, he wasn't able to, do the defensive drills, things like that in Indy, right? So for him, I think depending on the issues and where that takes him, I think he's basically locked himself up as a first-round talent. But you have to keep in mind, right, like these the scouts and the NFL talent or the NFL GMs, head coaches, they want to see what he's looking like, taking some time and coming to the Pro Day, right? So, he looked, to me, I thought he looked, for what it's worth, pretty good. I didn't really see him do nothing bad. I think he excelled in the drills and things like that. So I think he easily solidified himself. Now the question is, does he stay in the top 10? I think so. Nolan Smith, right? I think Brooks Austin. Shout out my guy Brooks. He's there, boots on the ground, and I saw this picture on Twitter of Nolan Smith doing a defensive drill, and one of the things with Nolan is, can he bend? And my God, can he? Basically looked like he was about parallel with the ground, and that's something that has caused him, on top of what he did at the combine, to literally just skyrocket up draft boards. I think he solidified a first round in Indy, but after today, you might just see him fall up into the top 10 potentially. I know what Todd McShay has him at 8 to the Falcons, so who knows? I thought that was pretty interesting to see, but at the same time, it's not surprising. You're getting a kid that's right. He's got the motor, he's got the IQ. Now you got to see the other intangibles too as well. How much he's getting better with the shoulder surgery too. So I thought that was pretty interesting to see. And I think when we look when we take a look into, you know, pro day for today, I think all eyes are on Stetson Bennett. I mean, his throwing session, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't, and that's something that, sometimes you might see an NFL guy, right? You might want to nitpick these incompletions, or right, you might want to, just things that could be better. And to me, I did see some hiccups there, but like, I mean, just overthrow one time, and like Darnell on a seam, he threw it behind him. I mean, Darnell caught it, but when you're in your pro day, you want these things to be as perfect as possible, flow, things like that. And also you're working with your receivers, so you know, throwing to Darnell, throwing to Kenny, throwing to Marcus Roseman, Jack Saint, Arian Smith. You know, to me, I thought it was pretty interesting to to see him throw and kind of stamp home what we saw in Indy, if that makes sense. I think listen, it's not a matter of if he gets drafted, but it's a matter of when. Uh, and Juan Daniels can fight me over this, but we've got that bet coming. I'm just saying I'm going to win this bet, Juan. Just going to leave that there. To Neil, welcome into the brigade. Nice pullover, thank you. Um, but ultimately, when you look at Stetson overall, I think Indy solidified the fact that he's got the arm to do that, to make the throws, the deep throws, right? Now like I said, it's just a matter of right, just doing everything that they say, and he did. I thought it was fine. I didn't see too many mistakes. I'm also not an NFL guy. You're not going to catch me there. Like, I'm not an NFL guy. I'm not going to say I'm even close. So what they're looking at, what I'm looking at is obviously different. They're there and I'm not. So I thought it looked fine. Couple passes, it could have been better. Um, but at the end of the day, here we are. And now you look for, whenever the draft or whenever the pro day's done, now you start to look forward to the draft. And there's another month of it, I believe, or a little bit over a month before the draft starts. So, you know, we'll see what happens as these guys come in. Now, I was a little bit surprised that Kieris didn't partake in it prior to, right around the start of the broadcast. You saw that, or I was noticing that Kieris didn't have his cleats on, and I, kind of curious as to why, but I'm sure there's reasons for it. But at the same time, I think another thing to just look at the pro day, right, is when you compare the pro day to right the combine, you know, we saw Kirby Smart. If you watch the broadcast, Kirby Smart just all over the place, and talking to GMs and talking to head coaches and NFL scouts and things like that. And that's another thing that a lot of it's a lot. It provides a lot of benefit, I should say. It provides a lot of benefit at a pro day because your head coach is there. Your head, excuse me, head coach is there. Your head coach can answer questions from NFL scouts and GMs and things like that. That you have that luxury there, whereas you in the NFL combine you don't. So, you know, just sitting there kind of taking it in and everything, and seeing that Kirby vouching for talking to everybody, that can help out these guys. Right? He's pushing to get these guys drafted. But I think the thing that separates Kirby from a lot of others is Kirby's going to be honest with people, right? I mean, like we see the track record, but there's still a lot of questions when you're investing the money that NFL teams invest these guys into these guys. So ultimately, pro days are always interesting to watch if you can watch them. Yeah, obviously you're still in shorts, you're not in pads or anything like that, and then Kirby attested to that too. But at the end of the day, I do think the key is to see guys that are maybe not even weren't able to partake. I mean, think about it. Warren Erickson got to have his pro day, didn't get invited to the combine, right? So that's another. I guess you could say that's another wrinkle to a pro day, right? Some of these guys didn't get a chance to, didn't get a chance to even get invited to Indy. So it's the first chance the NFL scouts really get to see a guy like Warren Erickson or Jack Podlesny, right? So I always look at that as a sense of, you know, show out and make a great first impression for those guys as well. I hope I think Podlesny can get drafted. While we're here, like this, folks. Smash that like button while you're here. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything, I promise. JWG might lie to you, but I'm not. Uh, Also, I'll pose a question here as well. What are your thoughts after we look at, as we move on from pro day, leading up to the draft? What what are y'all's thoughts? Y'all want to talk about maybe some draft projections, if you will, for some folks? Maybe drop that. Let me know what you think, and if give me a player if you think if you want to hear my prediction for a draft prediction, draft round or day, however y'all want it for a player. Let me know in the comments, and I'll answer them and take them on as we go. Edom Mayhem says, "Let's go dogs, go dogs." I think another thing with pro day. Remember, you take a look into what goes on into it. There's some things that, like, for instance, in Indianapolis, Kenny ran a 4.62. There was I felt like after watching his pro day, um, after watching his pro day, I felt like he ran faster than the 4.62. But it's a lot different with the kind of angles that you get. You know what I mean? What they show you compared to, what they show at the combine is a whole lot different. But yeah, ultimately that. What about William Poole? I didn't even honestly. I saw him, but I don't know. I can't really speak on that one to know. I'd love to see him get drafted, though. I really would. I know we had Matt Landers and Amir Speed come back as well. You wonder, these guys aren't even in Georgia no more. Well, the interesting thing is when you can come back, not only did it help, Stetson with his receiving core to throw to for his routine, you also, like I said, you have every team in the NFL is accounted for here in Athens. So that's 30, at least 32 teams. Somebody from in that team is going to be looking at you. So, it makes perfect sense for those guys to come back. Edom Mayhem says, I think you'll have at least 3 in the first round. I think so as well, but I want to hear your thoughts on who you think it would be. I think we have some guaranteed locks, but I want to hear your answer for that. I think we know Jalen Carter. We know Jalen Carter is going to be first round. I also think you see Nolan Smith and Broderick Jones. So there's your 3. I think the interesting thing is who is going to draft Keely Ringo. Where's he going to go? So there's your 4. I think you could see 5 in the draft, 5 in the first round. And also I think we have to keep in mind what's going on around the world of the NFL, because free agency is going rampant right now. Looking at, I don't know where the Raiders are drafting without looking. Someone let me know when they're drafting, because the Raiders let go of Waller, their star tight end. So it could be a situation where maybe the Raiders pick him up, or, and that's the thing, right? There's so many times. So Edom says, well, 4 then, because Ringo will be a late first round. Yeah, I think you can see him go mid to late. I think the Ravens would be an interesting pickup. But I think Ravens would also be a nice pickup for Darnell. Like, I'm just saying, Ravens would be a nice little pick for Darnell, I think, too. If the interesting thing is, like I said, these projections are all still fluid right now. Keep that in mind, because of the fact that everybody's moving everywhere, right? Like, think about Kenny Mack. You're hearing about Like I know Zeke came into the picture earlier today talking about they're preparing to release Zeke, and what does that mean? What does that mean for what does that mean for a guy like Kenny McIntosh, right? Does Dallas decide to invest their capital earlier and get a guy like a Bijan or something, or do they wait till like the second and third round maybe and go get a guy like Kenny McIntosh that can do it all out of the backfield? Don't know. That's why free agency is so fun because when you take and you look at the situations that are coming around, you start to picture what happens with with your Bulldogs, right? With our Bulldogs, that's what we look. That's what we do. So and then you look at the quarterback situation, right? You're starting to see guys moving all over the place, right? So where's Stetson Bennett going to go? Who's going to take that shot? Because all it takes is for one team to love you to get drafted. That's the beauty of it. But at the same time, you kind of obviously as Georgia fans, we want to wish these guys into good situations. I mean, think about N'Kobe Dean and Jordan Davis, right? Like and Trayvon Walker. Trayvon Walker, first overall pick to Jacksonville. In recent memory, Jacksonville has been dog shit. But now that you sit there, you see Jacksonville make the playoffs last year, right? Doug Peterson's there. You see him make the playoffs. Edom, I'm going to make the prediction that we see five first rounders and in no particular order. Jalen, Nolan, Broderick, Keeley, Darnell. I think those are the five. I think those are the five. Georgia dominating the draft again. Simple as that. I think Rudes didn't pull leave the program last year. I think so. But again, if you look at guys like Speed and Lander's been gone more than that. But Speed left to go to Michigan State. But again, they came back, right? They came back and for the pro day, they came back to attend the pro day, right? Where like Michigan State and I mean you could look at Arkansas too, but I mean it's still a good opportunity to work out and get in front of every NFL team because not every pro day that a school has, not every team has to show up. They don't have to show up. So having the ability to come work out in front of every team, I would take that opportunity if I was Matt Landers or Speed as well. You know, so to me it just makes too much sense. Tennille says she's on the same page. Tennille, I want to ask y'all a question. And where do y'all think Stetson? Do y'all feel like he's a day 2, day 3 guy? Which one do y'all feel? I feel like he's a day 3, but I think he could go early. I mean, I just think he can. You look at the quarterback market, and if you take, not only did you see Brock Purdy's situation, but if you look at the San Francisco situation, the fact that they went through 4 quarterbacks in a year, I just think that means there's an opportunity for him to get drafted and go compete for a backup spot and ultimately possibly go for a starting gig, right? Depending on how things go. It's just, to me, it makes sense. But I think Stetson is talented enough to go in the 4th round. I mean, I'd be a little bit stretching it here if I was said 3rd, but you never know. I mean, listen, who in reality would draft a kicker in the NFL draft? But here we are. So, I mean, think about it. Sebastian Janikowski or Roberto Aguayo. I'm not saying it, it happens. I mean, hell, Jake Camarda's a punter, and he got drafted in the 4th last year. So, I mean, and honestly, Jake Camarda's also tearing it up down there in Tampa Bay. Understand. Completely understand. But I do think that it's interesting to see, though, because, I mean, 4th round for a guy like Stetson Bennett, right? We saw like he's outrunning SEC linebackers and some DBs. So the fact that he can do that automatically tells me that he's got the athleticism needed. It's going to benefit a team. It's just a matter of which team. And we've seen it too. He can throw and all this other stuff. So keep that in mind. Like he's going to get drafted. He's going to get drafted. I don't know why you thought he's not, but because he'll stay off the pappy too. So you do that. It's At that point, it's a good thing to stay off of it and go from there. I do think. Well, who else? So we've talked about the five that I thought that were going to go in the first round. I'm curious about Warren McClendon. I think Warren could go late day two. I mean, the fact that you gave up no sacks in 2022 is remarkable. I think because him and Broderick both. Now the question is for when you look at Warren McClendon, you also have to understand that he's a right tackle. I don't. I'm not saying he can't. I just think he's more suited to play right tackle, and the right team might even slide him into guard. But I think he stays outside. Just my thoughts. So I think you see him like a late day two, or maybe day three, early three, as well. Just the tackle play is so valuable right now, right? Tackle. I don't think you can have enough tackles in the NFL just because of what you're seeing in the pass rush department here. Looking at guys like Aaron Donald and right. I mean, hell, it's just insane. It's crazy with the speed that you're seeing now coming in, getting influx into the NFL, and pass rushing is right. It's such a hot commodity that a nice tackle to have is going to be key. So people like teams will invest into those kind of they'll invest into that earlier. So I think you see him. And listen, people saw Jamari Sawyer fall to 6 last year, and saw what happened in Chargers. So Chargers season last year as a rookie. So I think people will take notice of that. Just my thought. Just my thought. I think Chris Smith. He did not look bad at all today, and I just think that you'll see Chris Smith go day three, and I think it's going to be. I think you'll see a Georgia run, but it also wouldn't surprise me if you see him go in the third. I think Chris Smith's draft stock is very dependent upon the cornerback market and the safety market. I think he's going to be a safety guy, maybe even a nickel guy, but I think probably even more so the nickel spot. But you have to look at the market. I think as with most all of these, a lot of these are driven by the market, and his draft grade could be a factor there. As it could be impacted because of the market. So I think you might see a day three, but he's worthy of a late day two pick. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Um, I think, like I said, Kenny McIntosh. I think you see him on day two. What the issue, the interesting thing that kind of makes me nervous is one. I need to see if he got his time better, his 40 times, because I don't know if they do release the 40 times unless you might have somebody in the building drop it or whatever. But if his 40 time dropped into the 4.5s, there's a shot that I think you see him get moved up over some other guys. But the question is, when you look at guys, when you look at Bijan and you look at A Chain, A Chain from A&M, blazing type speed, right? And there were some guys there that, this running back class wasn't a slouch class. Especially if you watched the combine, you saw that like some of these guys were booking it, but then they also had good on-field performances as well. So, now that Kenny's in the pro day environment and he can shine as the only running back, I think that might help as well. But I think also seeing that 4.6 in Indy in conjunction with what we saw others like Bijan running a 4.4 and other guys like A Chain running the low four or high 4.3s, I think it was. When you see that right there and you compare them to other guys, right, that might be the knock. But you're also looking at, like I said, this is all market based. It just is market based because you're looking at situation in Las Vegas, where Josh Jacobs is getting tagged, but he wants a deal. Right? Are they going to make the deal? So you're looking at that right there. You see emerging young backs like Pacheco, right, from Kansas City, just got drafted last year. Now he's already kind of the guy, kind of seemingly overtook Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And, Detroit, which I'm curious now to see what happens with DeAndre Swift, because they pick up Montgomery, if I'm not mistaken, the Lions do. So what does that mean for DeAndre Swift? The span for running backs is so small. So that's interesting to me. As we bring in my man KP, the Swoters. How's it going, sir? How are you, sir? You look dapper today.
Thank you. I'm feeling a little dapper. Got a little polo rocking. Making
Man, oh
testing up
man.
my glass of water with a little flavor in it.
Make Rude spit out his water, by the way. You ain't careful. No, so
What's
we
going
were
on, boss?
not much. So I was sitting here talking about the
Talking to yourself?
yeah, oh yeah, basically. Looking at myself in the mirror and saying, God, you're sexy. I'm just kidding. But no, we were just talking about pro day and things like that. Just talking about some some things in the market of the NFL in regards to free agency and how that could change draft stock, right, for Georgia players. Um, as Ruth says, hello, gorgeous. There you go. See, it was right on time. Look at that.
I'm
Told you.
pulling up, I'm pulling up the chat on my phone so I can see what everybody's been saying.
Uh oh.
Joel must have been acting up in jail. Joel.
Damn. She's on one today. She's been extra spicy today, man. But no, so have you been able? Now my question is, have you been able to watch the pro day from? I know you're actually on campus, so I didn't know if you were able to slide over or how was it? What was it? So you were in the building?
Oh, yeah.
What was that like? What was that like?
It is always a lot of anxiety from like our ops staff because we just have so many NFL coaches, GMs, assistants like here, and everything you really want it to run buttery smooth because you like to keep that relationship a positive one. Like you want them to have a parking spot. You want to have a golf cart ready to take them from their car to the front door of the indoor facility. You want, if they want a drink, you got it. They want a snack, you got it. Like, you realize that there are coaches that pick up the phone and call Kirby or call our director of ops directly and go, hey man, like, tell me about Keely Ringo. We're picking, 35th overall. Like, is it worth taking Keely Ringo? Like, is he going to make us better? What was he like? Did he go to class? Did he do this? Did he do that? So to keep that open door and that relationship with all the NFL guys, it helps getting all 32 here because all 32 don't think that they necessarily are going to draft a guy from Georgia this year, but they all still show up. They still, there's some theatrics behind pro days at elite programs, Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, some of those, even if you don't think anybody is going to help your team this year, you're still sending somebody to kind of look.
I thought it was interesting too because like I was saying earlier that not every school that has their pro day, not every team shows up from all. You know what I mean? So
no, I would say there are like probably 8 or less pro days that have all 32 teams represented. Because some schools you may have 30 of them, but you don't have all 32.
So yeah, it gets interesting there. I figured you may have stepped up for a brief second to kind of take it in. I know I was watching. They were showing Stetson on the SEC Network. I thought he had an all right showing. I think he made some good throws. I also saw some things that, he put some placement on some balls that should have been better. But I think he did go back and fix that and make the right throw after the fact. But I was saying that when it comes to these pro days, right? When you're doing the drills, especially for Stetson's sake, when you're throwing and things like that, you want it to be as smooth and perfect as possible. Because now you're in the comfort of your own home, you have your own receivers, things like that, and ultimately, I do think that, like I said, I think he had a good showing, right? I don't know if he ran the 40 or not. I think I only saw like the ones that I caught was McIntosh and I want to say Chris Smith. I don't know if a lot of guys ran the 40 today, but I know they like did like your shuttle drills and cone drill and stuff like that. Which again, I do think that's imperative. Especially for a lot of like guys like Warren Erickson and Jack Pod to get some athleticism and stuff measured down. Uh, but overall, though, I was talking when before you popped in and you got me all sidetracked and got Roots hot and bothered. I was talking about some projections, right? Some post pro day projections for some guys. I think you see five. I made a call. I think five guys get drafted in the first round this year. In no particular order, I've got Jalen, Nolan, um, Broderick, Darnell, and Keely Ringo as my five. What's your projection? How many think? How many think in the first round?
3.5 is your number right now.
Look
I
at
think.
you, goodness.
I think 3.5. I think that Nolan, Broderick, and Jalen are locks. I think all three of them might be top 15 picks in the draft. Maybe
I think they all are
pushing
honestly.
top 12, top 13 picks. So
Well, it depends on and I think this is too though, right? Like the reason why I made five is I feel like Darnell and Indy showed the world what we needed to see, and I didn't see an issue with him today. Like I didn't see anything that made people second guess it, anything like that. More confirmation, right? Things like that. I think when you and I mentioned an example, right? Because we talk about this, right? Making these projections, the free agency market will dictate where these guys get drafted ultimately. Because when you look at like for instance, Darren Waller gets traded from Las Vegas to the Giants, right? Cincinnati loses Hayden Hurst to Carolina. That to me, opens up some possibility for a guy like Darnell Washington to fall to Cincinnati and get picked up and replace Hayden Hurst with Darnell Washington. I think that things like that kind of drive, right? Obviously, just kind of your guess, but honestly, I think Darnell is worthy of a first round pick. I mean, I don't think we can argue that. I think right, it's just a matter of what the teams need and what they value what they value there.
yeah,
But
I think the point I was making was that I think that the first three I mentioned are locks, probably all going to be a top 15 pick. Then I think you get into Keely, Darnell, and you kind of just start looking at, like you're saying, best player available, team needs, and then the fact that in all honesty, there are only 32 picks. Like, shake it down however you want to. There are probably 45 guys that are round one skill or a round one grade. But in reality, there's still only 32 picks. Normally this year there's only 31 because of the forfeited pick.
yeah,
So it gets to be one of those things where, this team likes this guy just a little bit more. Like you're saying, the Bengals. Maybe the Bengals like, another tight end just a little bit more. Like Darnell still is right there, but they're the last team that's really looking for a tight end in the draft. Well, then the
yeah,
next team may not show up for 15 more picks, which will be after the first round. Not saying that if they had picked one later, they wouldn't have taken Darnell. They probably would have. I kind of think it's all the same thing. Like to me, like Nick Chubb. To me, I feel like we kind of saw it with Aziz a little bit too. Like Aziz dropping is just like that edge rusher. There was just such a gap between times where quality edge rushers were taken.
I was going to say, especially early on though, with pass rushers, right? Because the pass rushing ability and the ability to do it effectively at an elite level becomes such a commodity that you will separate yourself if you have those abilities and you can do it at a high level. Whereas other guys, right, like might not have the kind of same twitch that you need or right things like that, right? Different measurables or different intangibles, whatever a team values. But again, if they don't pick, like you said, you could easily slide. That's the interesting thing about the draft. As we see Adonis coming in, my man, I ain't seen him in a minute. Where, all right, Adonis, how is Where are you getting drafted this year? Are you trying to go to Carolina, or are you trying to go to the Falcons? Who knows? Who knows? He trying to go to Atlanta.
I'd take him Carolina at 1.
Yeah. Speaking of Kobe, I know. So we'll do this. We're talking about pro day. I saw. So obviously we don't really keep up with a lot of NFL talk here, but Carolina moves up from 9-1. So that tells me they're getting a quarterback. But your Bears go down to 9. Does that scream the potential for a Jalen Carter in Chicago situation?
Um, I just think that the farther along we get, the more interesting I think it'll be. Teams are going to do their homework on him. There's always that kind of flash factor of like he's all over ESPN. They're trying to throw shit at a wall, like talking about like this, that, the other. I mean, they're misdemeanor charges. They were filed well over a month after the incident happened, and then at the end of the day, odds are charges are going to get dropped. He's going to serve no penalty for any crime. So I guess at that point, once you do your homework at Georgia, you ask Kirby what kind of guy he is. You ask the, Coach Scott. You ask his teammates, stuff like that. I just think you're really going to understand that the character issue that he's trying to be portrayed as isn't true. And so then at that point, do I think that 3 of the first 4 picks are probably quarterbacks? Do I think Arizona probably takes Will Anderson at 3? But once you get into 5 with Seattle,
do the Seahawks.
You're risking passing on the next Aaron Donald from every pick after 5. Like if you're the Seahawks, you got to call yourself and go, okay, we don't have to take him, but what are we going to look like if he has a Hall of Fame career? What are we going to look like? Not if he has a Hall of Fame career. What if we look like, when he's defensive rookie of the year?
Think about Pat Mahomes at 10.
Yeah.
Think about Pat Mahomes at 10, because I know they're different positions, but when you look at the guys that went ahead of him, I think was that the Daniel Jones draft where he went 4th, and then Pat went 10th or something like that? Was that the same one?
That's the Mitch Trubisky.
That's it.
At 2. And I think Mahomes went at 10.
Yeah, he went 10.
Watson at 12, maybe. I think he was between Watts and then Trubisky. But I agree. It just at some point it gets to be like I think the Seahawks are at 5. And I think maybe the Raiders.
The Lions at 6, Raiders at 7, Falcons
at 8, Bears at 9, Eagles at 10. He won't make it past the 10th pick.
Because the Eagles, listen, if for some reason he is there at number 10, the Eagles will take that with a luxury pick because they have a free agent in Fletcher Cox. And that is listen, we saw what happened with Jordan Davis, but if and I don't see it happening, but if Jalen Carter is there at 10, that is the pick. I understand. I've heard some people talk about Bijan going in the top 10. If Jalen Carter is there, you take Jalen Carter and pair him with Jordan Davis because that is a nightmare with Hassan Reddick there.
Well, especially just the way running backs in the NFL are these days. I mean, I hate to be that way, but unless you're a top 5 running back, and even then, teams think you're replaceable. I look at the Titans trying to shop Derrick Henry. What team in their right mind is trying to shop Derrick Henry?
Yeah, I mean, running backs now.
I saw a thing that the Browns may be open to trading Nick Chubb. It's like
I don't see that. Nick Chubb is their team, but no. I mean, you're never. I mean, as a running back, you are never guaranteed shit. You're never, especially in today's world of NFL. You know what I mean? That's the thing. Like, I mean, with DeAndre Swift, like, what's going to happen to him now that the Lions got Montgomery, right? Like, could that mean you never know? Like, Clyde Edwards-Helaire wasn't a terrible running back for the Chiefs. DeAndre Swift should be a Chief, by the way. But like I said, look at Pacheco. I think that's how his name is spelled or said, pronounced or whatever. Coming in as a rookie and making waves, right? now you start to look at Clyde Edwards-Helaire as like, all right, well, what's your value now? You know what I mean? So every year something like that changes. So running backs is specifically like your lifespan as a running back is like very small, drastically different than what we used to saw what 5 10 years ago. I remember when I mean think about it when you had Zeke and Todd. Remember when Todd Gurley came out as a Ram? Oh, dude,
Yeah, I saw Zeke's getting cut today too.
is he? I heard they said they were getting prepared to cut him. I didn't know. If I figured that means they more than likely, uh, you know, I could see it.
When they franchise tagged Tony Pollard, I knew that his
Yeah.
days were numbered in Dallas.
So, some takeaways though. Broderick Jones looks amazing from a physicality standpoint. Like from a physical standpoint, dude looks in shape like it's nobody's business. And I find it hard pressed. I see him going no latest is offensive tackle too. I think you have that guy from Northwestern, a Skaransky guy that could go first tackle off the board, but ultimately I feel like Broderick Jones will be the number one tackle off the board. I just feel that kid's just a freak. I mean, you've seen it. You've played you right. Like, you know what I'm talking about. Kid is just a freak. Like you don't pass that up, but especially like he makes blocking on the edge look easy. Now I know it's at the collegiate level, so please don't take that out of context like the AJC would. But you know, I just think that he'll be offensive tackle one. Adonis says he's definitely going Mr. Irrelevant. Listen, I'm not laughing because I saw what Tate Crowder did as Mr. Irrelevant. Keep that in mind.
And Brock Purdy.
And Brock Purdy. Yep. Next thing you know, you're going to hear
maybe even more so Brock Purdy.
Yeah, well, maybe. If you think about it, though, Tate Crowder's a rookie, came in and played well for the. He's not there now, but he's not at the Giants now. But he had a good year or two before they let him go. Again, I don't know why they let him go, but whatever.
I just think he wasn't playing. He requested a release. But I agree. I think Nolan looked really good today in the defensive line drills. He looked very flexible. Broderick's super athletic. I think that's going to be a big thing in meetings with people that, like DeJuan Jones from Ohio State, he's big guy, huge, massive.
Paris Johnson.
Well, I'm thinking Johnson's right there. I'm thinking Jones more so because I'm going to do the comparison of yes, he is big, but he is not very athletic. He's almost so big that he can't move. Where Broderick is very comfortable in his frame, end up measuring even taller than we had him listed. Arms are really long, and he naturally carries that 325, 330 very well, very slim, very muscular. He's not a big fat guy out there at tackle.
That's nuts, isn't
it? It just that athleticism means a lot when it comes to, across from you all of a sudden is Trayvon Walker, and you have to be quick and you have to be sudden. You can't just be big. Big isn't going to bail you out.
No, DeJuan also has extremely long arms, so he can get a hold of you beforehand. But in the NFL, these guys train day in and day out how to get your hands off of them and go and utilize that to their advantage. So you can't just rely on getting your hands on somebody. I think you have to be able to move your feet just as much, which is why you start to see the value of left tackles and offensive tackles. More so your left tackle, but you know what I mean? That's why there's such a high value for it. Adonis asked, did y'all discuss what Kirby said about the QB competition? No. So obviously yesterday was the first day of practice. Kirby at his presser talked about the quarterback competition in regards to, obviously, long story short, I'm going to sum this up as shortly as I can. You're looking at Carson and Brock getting splits with the ones. Nothing surprising there. It's spring camp. Everyone's getting reps. You expect that to be the case. I don't, to me, I didn't see anything fishy at all with that. I still think you're going to see it. You're going to get it split, but I do think you're going to see a higher chunk of those reps go to Carson Beck, especially with practice one. Now, as things go on, again, it's the same thing. This is a reason why you do. Everyone gets reps. This is important because of the fact that, right, you're not going to sit there, Kobe. You kind of see you might see where I'm going with this, but you're not going to sit there and just have Carson Beck take every single snap with the ones throughout the whole spring, but due to the fact that what happens if he gets hurt? All right, so you're going to see all these guys get reps at the ones, just obviously depending on how much. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's kind of like I touched on Monday with you a little bit, explaining the O-line breakdown. Is there really isn't in spring a true depth chart, almost even to the point where, like, even in the spring game, like, yeah, they'll call it, one offense versus one defense, or two offense versus two defense, but like that's just for simplicity's sake. I mean, the depth chart isn't important, I guess, at this point in the year, is what Kirby would tell you. He's telling you that he wants to see good quality reps. He wants to see that you have an understanding of the offense. You have command of the huddle. You have, command of your receivers. You can recognize coverage. You can recognize blitz packages that are coming at you. You can accurately help the offensive line get into the right protection. Things, those small things that people seem to forget about, that a quarterback really has to be able to do, and we want them to be able to do before you ever put them in a live fire situation. And so it will be good, but that's basically, the reason I think Kirby's saying that is there's a red and a black team, and so that's what's going to play in the spring game. So at that point, it is going to be Beck versus Brock at some point. Not to say Stockton won't take a ton of reps. He is. Everybody takes a ton of reps in the spring. That's just kind of how it is. Your roster is the lightest it is all year. You got to have bodies. My personal opinion is that it's Beck's to lose, but it won't mean that this is not going to be a heated three-way quarterback competition that will go up until probably the second week of fall camp. Like,
you want your, even if there's not a starter, you want each quarterback to feel the competition. You want that pressure of the competition there, because like it pushes them to be better, right? Like, we have to look at, people take quarterback competition and can manipulate it accordingly, right? Like, even if there isn't a true competition, you still want your starting quarterback to feel the pressure behind them and make them understand that, hey, look, he's getting reps now too. That means he's coming after me. Feel that pressure, and that helps. If you don't do that, I think that's where you're really hurting yourself as a program.
And that means two sides of a coin sometimes, because yes, like, there is a really good time and a really appropriate place to have really fierce competition. But then at the same time, and I see Adonis saying 100% of the season I had no pressure behind me, all that. But there does come a time where there has to be like a clear split, I guess. I
think you look at the summer for that, right?
Yeah,
I think the summer is when that starts. Yeah.
Oh, I agree. The spring, there will be 100% of competition the whole spring.
You're working for your scholarship. I mean, really, your scholarship distribution, you're working for that in the spring and stuff. No, maybe.
You sign a piece of paper when you enroll as a freshman, so your scholarship's guaranteed for until you either graduate or are deemed ineligible.
Oh, got it.
So nobody has to earn scholarships anymore except walk-ons. So
there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Adonis said 100%. The season he had, no pressure behind him, was far worse than when he's been pushed. I'm like, it makes sense, right? I mean, that's why Kirby urges and pushes for competition 100% of the time. Like, you want the best going up against the best, because it creates a situation where everybody gets better. It's not this situation where, like I don't understand how you have like a true ones versus like a, for instance, like at G Day, right? You have your one, you have your red versus black, but like teams, programs that will literally run their one offense against their two or their whatever. I'm all on board for one versus one, to be honest, because that's how you get better. Like if, especially if there's a drastic change in level of play, because you want to push yourself to get better, right? Georgia's in a situation where we want to win a national championship every year. We've already done it twice. We're on track trying to do it a third time. Kurt, you hear Bloody Tuesday where you're going good against good. That happens even like you have these kind of camps and practices even after the SEC championship game. That time between the SEC championship game and the playoffs, things like that. Like, yeah, that just makes sense. Black Adonis has something for you, saying he hears Kobe. He's not trying to deal with that aspect 5 weeks into the season.
And then give a shout out Daniel. I see commented, Stet will rock it in the NFL, solid backup for years, and wouldn't be shocked if he even becomes a serviceable starter. Natural born winner. Daniel, you're glad Juan's not on the show right now because you would have made Juan laugh right there.
I'm just saying,
but
he's getting drafted.
I agree. Juan seems to be our only host that doesn't quite agree with that. But
I think Juan's bitter. I think Juan's just old and bitter.
Yeah. I think we all think that he has a home in the NFL in this draft, and that at some point when you look at teams that go through a Brock Purdy and he has success and leads a team to a postseason, I think we all know that there aren't enough quality quarterbacks to go around all 32 teams, and then especially after that to be a quality backup for one of those 32 teams. So backup quarterback in the NFL, a lot of money to be made. And I agree that he could definitely be, a serviceable starter if you needed him to be for like, a 4-game stretch or something like that. But, I don't necessarily think we're building franchises around him, but
I don't think so. I like I said, I'm with you on that sentiment as well. Did you hear about? So Jim Nagy tweeted this out early this morning, saying talking about Jalen Carter. Apparently, he weighed in at 323. That's like 9 pounds more than at the combine. How much do you take away from that? Like, how much are you supposed to take away from that? Because I think with all the, I mean, literally from the time of the combine, from the combine to the pro day, how much has he been able to really work out? I feel like he's been dealing with so much stuff. Like you might not even be able to do the things that you need to do and focus 100%. I, I get it. It might not look the best, but with him, there's no doubt in my mind that he'll shed that shit off and it won't be a problem. I feel like people can try to make too much of a deal out of it. What are your thoughts on that?
Say the weight again for me. What do you weigh in today?
323.
Who cares? I mean, he's an interior defensive lineman.
You're hearing people say that that's too much weight. That's too heavy for him. Again, he's going to get drafted and go through their camps and work out anyway. I think you see him lose that weight anyway.
I mean, 323 is too heavy for him. He's 6'4". I mean, I just guess like I would be interested to know what Devontae Wyatt weighed in at last year's pro day. I mean, I would say it would be something comparable. And here's my thing too. Scales fluctuate. I know that is a stupid thing to say, but you never know if our scale's weighing a little heavy. Is the one at the combine weighing a little heavy? Is it weighing a little light? Whatever. And then the combine is such a stressful time for all these athletes. And then, we don't even have to bring up how stressful it was for Jalen Carter. You never know if he, was dehydrated, wasn't eating properly. And now that he's home in Georgia, he's been, preparing, eating better, all kind of things. Ronald Ham, water is 7 pounds per gallon. But, I mean, my thing is you just never know from week to week comfortability. And weight fluctuates on people. Water weight fluctuates on people, especially student athletes. We'd have guys at Georgia that, during fall camp or summer workouts, they lose 10 pounds from before workout to after workout. So you just never know. It's not enough weight that it's not like he weighed in at pro day at 365. I would say, okay, we have a little bit of a problem. But at 320,
what did you put in your belly? Did you eat concrete?
Yeah. At 320, it doesn't. I mean, it's not screaming alarms, I guess, to me.
If anything, hear me out. If anything, if I'm there, and I'm an NFL team scout or GM or whatever, I hear that number. What I do, I compare. Obviously, you compare that, right? You've seen him gain some weight. Now my mentality is I want to see how he handles. I want to see how he performs at that weight because you look at the tape. I'm sure he probably plays around the 310 range. Correct? You would think he'd play around 305, 310 during the season, Kobe.
Sorry, I'm looking up what his roster.
I got you. No, I was just thinking, during the season, you're probably, Jalen's probably playing at 310, 315 max, if that, just due to the season. But if you sit there and play at 323 and you working out and you look fluid and you don't get tired and things like that, as a scout, I'm like, all right, so he can add a little bit of weight, 320, and still do the same things. And you don't really see that motor slow down as much as you would think. That could help, but I'm not saying it'll hurt or help, but that could be a different philosophy that a team might use. Right? How does he handle it? Right, being a little bit overweight right now. Like I said, is he going to be tired? Is he winded? Like, what does it look like? Right? What does his performance look like?
But at the end of the day, you said it best. He's going to be a professional athlete, and he's going to be a top 10 pick. He's going to come in. He's going to do body fat percentage. They're going to ask him what weights. They're going to ask the strength staff and the coaching staff what weights he's played in as a sophomore and as a junior. They're going to look at that film, and they're going to use their nutritionists and their staff, and they're going to say, Jalen Carter, you need to weigh between 295 pounds and 310 pounds. We're just going to make that up. But you're going to weigh that, and if you don't, for every pound over or under that, I'm going to fine you $1,000 every day that you don't weigh that amount. And they're going to go from there.
Well, yeah, I was about to say they could. I mean, if you think about it, the NFL contracts could have some crazy shit in them as well. I don't know.
That's everybody. That's everybody. If you're on an active 53-man roster, everybody has a target weight. It's typically about a 10 to 15 pound, depending on how big you are or how small you are, maybe a 10-pound window that you have to meet. And if you don't meet that, you get fined.
Yeah. So, I mean, that makes sense to me. I mean, and again, that's a variable that a team that selects him would use, right? Because, like I said, you see different philosophies. Like I said, what we saw when he plays on tape, when he came in at the combine at 315 or so, like, yeah, that's okay. You could have one team look at it that right there. But what if you have a team that says, I want you at 315 to 320, like 325? You could see that right there. So what you're seeing there is not going to be an issue. Don't overreact, folks, is what we're saying to these fluctuations in weight. Just letting you know.
At the end of the day, it's only important to about 25, 30 people, and that's the people that are picking from the GMs and the head coaches that are picking from 8 to 10 or from 5 to 10. Yeah. If your team is named the San Francisco 49ers and you're not even picking in the first round, you shouldn't be worried about it. I mean,
that's my thought, but you never know, man. People just want to take shit and run with it, to be honest. So we'll see how that plays out. I do think, I don't know if you saw it, but Keely Ringo, when he did his defensive drill, the backpedal drills and stuff, basically the W, what I'm talking about, that kind of drill, he looked fluid in that. Like, it looked better than in the combine to me. Like, he looked more fluid and more comfortable than in the combine. I think that helps him. I'm just saying, I think that helps him answer some questions, especially now you got, the focus all on you, right? Now with a pro day situation, you know what I mean? The fact that you can be that fluid, show even better, show out even better than what you did in the combine, I think could help him out solidify first round stock in all seriousness. If things,
I'm interested to know. He re-jumped today, and I don't know if they'll release it.
that's
He
what I'm curious
re-jumped.
to.
He re-jumped the vertical and the broad, so
Good.
I'd be very interested to know, like, does vertical go up at
I'd
all?
like to, I'd like to think so, but I mean, the House of Pain more than I've ever imagined it. So, you could. Well, I've never been to Indy either, so I think what Juan mentioned when we were talking about the giraffe combine, that the grass thicker there.
Well, you don't jump on the grass
No, no.
here.
Well,
Here,
here,
at least, you don't jump on the grass. I know. I
could
don't.
that be a difference maker for them? Because I think when they did it, though, it looked like it was on grass at the combine. I might be wrong.
I don't know, but yeah, I mean, 100%. The rubber, the fake rubber in the grass, you're gonna sink into. But you're probably talking about an inch. You're talking or half an inch. You're talking about
Fractions of an inch.
Yeah, you're talking about maybe the difference between him jumping 29 at the combine and 30. And if that's what he did here, then I'd say his combine is pretty accurate. If he jumped more closer to like 33, 34 here, I would say that he just had a bad day at the combine. So.
Yeah, again, I mean, because earlier before you came on, I was talking about Kenny running his 40 again. All it takes is for him to run a little bit faster at that 4.5. You can have a 4.59. I don't care. 4.59. The fact that you have a 4.5 instead of a 4.6 there, that's how teams are going to view that. And that can change your draft stock tremendously too.
I think Kenny's biggest X factor is the fact that and we've talked about it all season, and it's been something that's been harped on even at Pro Day. It's his ability to run routes and catch the ball out of the backfield.
He looked good when Stetson was throwing earlier.
He's an above average running back, when he has ball in hand and is running the ball. I would say he is pushing an elite level running back coming out of the backfield. His route running ability, his just catch and his vision after catch ability just are both really impressive as well. So I think he's one of those guys that you're right. It would be nice, run a 4.5. He'd have some breakaway speed, but he's also going to be, maybe your third down back for some team. He may not be your.
He could be your receiving. He could be your receiving threat. I mean, you're starting, and we're going to end it up after this. But I think when you take a look at how versatile running backs are, teams look to value a do-it-all type back, but at the same time, they understand the importance of having niches as well, right? You remember when, like, Carolina used to have Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams, and those were two polar opposites, if you will. But they put together a remarkable running back duo because of their ability to do, everything good. Just obviously different type, different players were more special for it. It's just like James Cook and Zamir White. Not saying Zamir, Zeus could catch out of the backfield. He showed it his senior year, but it's still light years behind James Cook's receiving ability.
And I think it just depends on what you're looking for. I think with the David Montgomery signing in Detroit, kind of like we were talking about, you kind of have him and Swift who kind of both do the same thing. They're both really elusive between tackles, but they also have really good speed and really good catching ability, on the screen game or the swing pass. And then they have their big bruiser, inside the 5 and Jamal Williams, which I'm not sure if they re-signed him yet or not. But,
No, Jamal Williams walked. I think he walked. Or they let him go, I think. So that's big for them.
Yeah, I mean, what do you have, 14, 15 touchdowns last year? Something like that. Something crazy. Something really crazy on touchdowns. But
something like that. Let's wrap this thing up, man. Overall, let's do a final takeaway from today's events. I feel confident that these guys did the right things. You do have some concerns, right? I think that Jalen Carter, how he performs, could make an impression of looking out of shape. Hopefully that's not the case. I think he's going to be fine regardless. It's just me. But what does that mean for teams that are up there picking in the top 10? What does that look like to them? It's going to be a question if that's the case. But I feel like everybody had a good pro day. There's obviously small things that you see, but I feel like they got fixed, especially Stetson in the passing game, throwing.
And to me, it's great to see. It's great to see all the old faces. Some people get a little sour about transfers, but I think it really helps you understand that Georgia really is a home away from home. I think it's really good to show recruits that basically, if you've ever played at the University of Georgia, like you're welcome here always. You have Jaden Hunter, who hadn't played here since like 2019, maybe at Pro Day. Hugh and Colby White both have been going to Hawaii since like 2020, I think. Matt Landers left, I think, after the 2019 season as well. Matt Lander's been to 3 other places, and he's still at our Pro Day today. Given, he's looking out in front of all 32 teams compared to Arkansas's Pro Day. But,
yeah,
I mean,
like that's the perk of being able to say you went to Georgia. That's another thing that, ultimately Kirby Smart can say, hey, listen, and he even did that on the show when I think Matt Stinchcomb was talking to him and saying, won't this, if you're a dog, you're basically welcome here. It's like perfect example. You know what I mean? Other than that, though, Kobe, I think it was a good show. Thanks for coming on, sir. I know you had some stuff to tend to, so it's good to give a good chat with you.
Yes, sir.
We're going to take the weekend and see what happens and see if there's any spring practice notes or anything like that, and come back ready to go Monday. Maybe Juan can be here and Rob and the gang will be fully intact.
It's been a while. 2 weeks shows.
I know. I feel like people are ready for this. Like once it happens, it's like
it's gonna be a major event.
Yeah, Rudes will go over the top.
I feel like we're gonna be like Aaron Rodgers finally announcing where he's gonna play football. Like it's gonna be that.
Yeah, speaking of that, I saw 202,000 people watching Pat McAfee show because of that.
Is it on right now at 1?
He does 12 to 3, I think.
Okay.
So I don't know.
I think Rodgers is coming on at 1 though.
Oh, so he might be doing it right now.
All right, bye.
Yeah, bye. Have a good one, guys. We'll catch y'all next time. Have a good one. Go Dogs. See y'all Monday.